Okay, I'm just going to record my own call. Um, I recently wrote an article. First of all, welcome to Four Silent Killers in a Job Interview. I recently wrote an article about the Golden Circle, which breaks down a job interview into a couple of processes, which is the what, the how, and the why. And in each of the interview process, um, in each of the interview phase, there's always a potential of not getting quote unquote moved forward. Sometimes you're left wondering, well, why? I thought the interview went well. I thought I have all the skills they asked for in the job description, so why not me? Well, in the last 10 years, I've heard a lot of reasons as to why a company doesn't want to move forward with a candidate. And a lot of times, recruiters, especially in house recruiters, they're not able to disclose all of the information. They cannot share a lot of the reasons with you. And even if someone is applying for a job through a recruitment agency, depending on the actual feedback, they may have to filter their words, which means it really takes away your learning opportunity of your performance during the interview. Or what about about your experience, about that interview experience that lead them to not move you forward. And also, a lot of recruitment agencies, they really want to protect their clients too, so they do have to filter their words, and that's why we're talking about this today. Why did you not get the job? Some house cleaning business, I believe everyone can see your what you type in on the chat box. So be sure to screen your words. If there's anything you don't really want everyone to know, you may not want to type it in there. Oops. Okay, so we're going to talk about four killers. Killer number one is no thank you notes. Some people may think, well, thank you note is something so yesterday, so outdated, but a thank you note that serve a purpose. Let me see. Okay, good. A thank you note that serve a purpose. It tells the other party that you're interested, and you may think, well, what more do they want from me? I just spent about 7 hours with the company or for an in-person interview. On the flip side, you have to understand that all interviewers have spent way more time planning this interview. Besides, job seeking is a lot like dating. If there's no follow up, the other person really doesn't know if you're interested. And another reason too is while you think that a thank you note is something of the past, you don't know if the company feels the same way. I've come across candidates in the past who doesn't write thank you notes, and I honestly have no clue if they're interested in the opportunity. So if there's a chemistry on your end and you feel like this is a great opportunity, spend some time. Go ahead, write a nice thank you email, or maybe even write an actual handwritten note and send it to them. I've seen hiring managers in the past who are a little bit on the fence that would come back and reconsider the candidate because of a very strong and sincere thank you note. On the other hand, same situation, the hiring manager is a little bit on the fence, but when there's no follow up from a candidate, I have been told to not do anything, don't follow up, and let it fizzle because there's a little less work and also it's a good gauge to see if the other person is interested. Killer number two, complacency, or maybe you're a little too comfortable. The sin of complacency can manifest in many ways, one of which is when you ask basic questions. Well, you may think, well, I've been moved to the next interview, so must be qualified for the job, right? Well, this is an inside scoop. Unless there's a job offer on the table, an interview is just an interview. It does not mean a shoe in. It can very well mean that there's enough information on a company's end that leads them to believe you could be a good fit. It does not mean that the call went extremely well, does not mean that the Skype interview went phenomenal, or even an in person interview, like the first part of an in person interview went great. It just means that there's a maybe 50 or maybe 60% chance that you're a good fit, and they're not entirely sure. So they want to have you come back again and hope the next interviewer can dig a little bit deeper in the concerned areas. So do not be complacent by keep asking basic questions. If you want to find out examples of basic questions and what they are, you can check out my YouTube channel, Interview Right Consulting. And I do have a webinar titled Art of Asking Questions. Check that out, and you can find out more information what those examples of basic questions. The second manifestation, ask questions that have been previously addressed. Writing notes and studying those notes before an interview, or whether it's the phone interview or with a hiring manager, with a recruiter, is extremely essential. In fact, consider an interview begins the moment the recruiter gets back to you. I've been on interviews where I distinctly remember having covered the organizational structure and about the position, about how different departments work together. And if a candidate asks me again during an in-person interview, it really raises the question that this person either did not pay attention during the interview or lack attention to details. Whatever the reason is, this is just a mental survey I've done. About 9.5 out of 10, we pass on those candidates with or without me offering that piece of information during the feedback meeting. So my conclusion is, when someone asks a question that has previously been covered, it is just a sign of something a bit bigger. It could be general lack of attention to details. Maybe this person is not a great listener. Maybe this person does not care enough about a job, or maybe this person doesn't generally take things too seriously. Again, if you're interested in an example of a thorough research, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's called The Art of Asking Questions. I cover that piece as well. Negativity. If you have gone through some rough times with your previous employers, the likelihood of you carrying some of that negativity over is extremely high. Negativity is one of those things really difficult to describe, but if you come across one of those negative people, you know that person is negative. Now, if you are interviewed by a really seasoned recruiter, they're trying to ask you questions in such a way that it really has to guard down, like you're talking to a friend or something. I've had candidates disclosing information that is extremely unnecessary. Remember one who said to me a criminal record that has already been expunged, and in my mind I'm like, why did you tell me that it's been expunged? So for starter, this is a little bit different, but for starter, practice talking about why you left the previous jobs, as well as why you're leaving your current job to someone whom you know has a reputation for being a little too blunt, someone who doesn't have any problems telling you that you're acting like a jerk. If you don't have any one of those people in your life, pay someone to do it. There's services out there, whether it be interview coach or career coach, that can give you that kind of instant feedback. And I can guarantee you, even if you're a perfect person for the job, if you're full of bitterness about your previous jobs, it will come out. And the thing is, you would rarely, maybe I shouldn't say never, but you will rarely ever hear that as a reason for rejection from a recruiter. Killer number three, weak answers. What are some examples of weak answers? Say, during a face to face interview, when the recruiter or the hiring manager asked you, why do you want to work here? Look back at your notes. You regurgitate the About Us page on a company's website. You fail to answer the questions. And number four, you stutter through your own product pitch. On a very basic level, do some basic research on the company. Weak answers are what someone can find on the website. Um, what makes you stand out is to tell someone you something um, or say, tell me something I don't know about you or about the company you work for. Tell me something beyond the surface. That's at least will help you stand out a little bit more. Now, what are some of the solutions to turning a weak answer to a strong answer? With a question, why do you want to work here? And the quote unquote about us page. What's the solution to answering give a strong answer? It helps if you do have domain experience. Try to apply for jobs that require domain expertise. So say for example, if you're someone with say 5 to 6 years of experience in the financial services industry, you understand the pain points of that industry and how the products at that company you're applying for will solve the problems. um, so speak like you're an authority in that subject matter. Internalize your research. Instead of repeating what you see in the About Us page, figure out what does that mean for you. If the About Us page only lists out the features and benefits, what's the value this product is providing you? Which brings me to the next point. Internalize your company's pain points and show how this company is solving them. So again, having domain expertise is really important. Um, or if you don't jump around from like a marketer to a sales or and then back to engineering and then to product, like if you don't jump around like that, it helps you to internalize, what is your main point as a marketer? What's your pain point as a salesperson or as an engineer or as a product person? You can actually speak like an authority, or even if you don't have domain experience, how about your daily lives? Um, do you have pain points in your daily life, something that is just, is a pain in your neck, and this company is providing solutions to something that means a lot to you, even on a very mundane level? How about how make sure that you address the questions or answer the questions. Do research on the companies you'll be do research on the people you're going to be speaking with. A lot of times recruiters, they do send you a list of people that you'll be face to face with, face to face interview with, or even phone interview. You know who the person is. What is that person's title? Or if it's a group interview, what are their titles? Is the person the hiring manager, the manager of the hiring manager? What matters to this person? And in the event you have no, like once you do the research, you realize, oh, why do I need to interview this person? Make sure beforehand, not the day of the interview, beforehand, reach out to the recruiter and ask for more clarifying questions. I'm a marketer, but I, for some reason, speaking with someone on the engineering team. Why is that? What's the relationship? How am I going to be working with that person? Um, and based on that, list out all the questions you think those people are going to ask. You can also list them down. Let's see, categorize those questions. Be sure to cover the what and the hows. Imagine if you have 6 questions on your list, categorize them. Are they revenue related? Are they skill sets related? Are they about your specific experience, domain knowledge? Write them down. Write down even as write down the answers as verbatim as you can if you want, especially when it comes to a phone interview. The other person doesn't know that you have notes. Um, Write them down, have bullet points. If there's some areas you think it's really important for you or very important for this position, you don't want to miss, however way you organize the materials, put a star next to it. Make sure that you weave that information to your conversation. You can also start by talking about the numeric achievements. So, say for example, imagine if I go on an interview for a head of talent. Say for example, I can list down, what have I accomplished last year. For example, last year I filled about 20 positions, a little bit more than 20 positions, and half of which I personally recruited. So I can imagine what will I be asked. How number one maybe how do I come up with those numbers? Number two, how do I come up with a selling pitch of the company? How do I sell the position itself? What's my process? What's my day to day like? How many recs am I, or how many jobs am I trying to fill? Are they junior level roles? Are they senior level roles? Contextualize those 20 positions. What are they? So we can begin to list down all of those questions and write them down. And write down the answers to each of them. Now, what happens, as I mentioned before, someone asking you a question about your product and you stutter through it. What happens if the interviewer asks you about a product value proposition question? Now, if you're someone with a little less experience, maybe like less than 5 years of experience, that is not it's not too dangerous. It is okay. And the reason being, because you haven't had too much job experience, just to make it easier for you, sometimes hiring managers, they want to ask you, oh, tell me about the product that you're representing or the company that you're working for. What is the sales pitch of the product? And it's something really easy for you to answer. But if you're someone with more than 5 years of experience and even like more than 10 years of experience, you shouldn't really expect them to ask you that question. And if they do, pay a little bit more attention and don't think that this is a good question. The reason being, if you have more than 5 years of experience, have like 2 to 3 jobs under your belt, or maybe like more than 3 jobs under your belt, that person should spend more time learning more about your experience, what you've accomplished, what you can bring in the table. There should not be any time left to figure out the value propositions of your product. So if they ask that question, it just means interview is not going great and they don't know what else to ask you, and that's an easy way, a cop out way for them to wrap up the interview. So, again, do not be complacent. Treat that as a warning sign. Killer number four, inability to articulate the why. This goes back to the article I wrote. The what on the outside is what have you done, which people can easily read on a resume. The one next to it is how, or the one inside it, it's the how, which is really important. But if you're someone with like say 8 years of experience, of course you have stories about how did you do certain things, which brings me to the inside the core part, the why. The why is what is going to set you apart. A job seeker is someone who's looking for a job, someone who can easily talk about what they have done and how they've done it, someone who's collecting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Now, a career seeker is someone who's looking to build depth, who's driven by something higher than themselves. So, say, for example, one of my clients, say the candidate's name is Sally. Um, Sally's applying for a position at one of my client sites, and it so happened that this Sally is also working as in partnership with the client. And so when I spoke with Sally, I asked her, "Why did you want to work at this company?" To which she said, "Well, the more I get to know the product, the more I get to know the company, I'm just in love with it. So much so that when I was supposed to sell my product, I end up talking more about your company's product than mine. So I don't know what to do if I don't get this job. Maybe I'm just going to sell for you for free." So that's what Sally said. And so when I hung up the phone with Sally, needless to say, went back to my client and said, "You need to hire Sally right now. This Sally is the person for you." Sally's still with my client and she's doing really, really well. That example is a little extreme. I don't expect everyone to say to make that kind of statement, but that also leads to the importance of the why. She knows exactly why she wants to work for this company, and she has the passion along with it. How do you know when someone is asking you one of those why questions? You've been doing this for years. Why do you want to keep doing this? And the other variation is what keeps you going. You've been doing this for a number of years. Um, but why do you still want to keep doing the same thing? When you wake up in the morning, what keeps you motivated? 95% of the people would say something along the line of, "Well, because I'm really good at it." The truth is, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you need to keep doing it, right? Is there a more noble reason why you want to keep doing it, or is it because you are very comfortable? There's nothing wrong with being comfortable, but it's very dangerous for your career if you just remain comfortable. Another way is, why us? Well, the us part is beyond the basic research you do about a company. It's beyond the functions and features of the company's products, beyond what you see on Glassdoor. It's like, oh, I see that you're one of the top 10 companies. I see that CEO has really high rating. I see that you have really good reviews. Like those are really servicey stuff that everyone can pull up. So and it's also beyond the rounds of funding this company has received, or like the general reputation this company has in the marketplace, or the Google, the Yahoo, the Facebook. And of course these are great companies, everyone wants to work for them. So the us part has to be something deeper than that. There are many good companies out there and you can choose to work for any of them. So the why us part has to be really heartfelt and very meaningful to you. It takes either you having the domain experience or you do some social listening on where the product stands in the marketplace. It will also take you look beyond the service and piece that information together and formulate your own opinion. Again, goes back to if you're applying for more of a business to consumer types of company, how does this company solve problems that matters to you or your friends, some kind of significance to you. And sometimes you may be asked the question, why you? Why should I pay attention to you? Why should I hire you? Um, People may think, well, because I have the experience and I've done it in the past. With this part, it's already covered. There's a reason you're in the face-to-face interview phase. There's a reason you're in the phone interview phase because that part is already covered. Now, if you're talking to someone who's smart, no ego, share some numbers. Talk about what you know about a market share, the marketplace, and in a similar situation, these are the things you've done maybe in the, these are the things you've done to gain better market traction. This is what you've done to fix the problem, and this is the product you've launched, and this result, whatever. How have you made an impact in your current role, and how can you project your experience and what you've done in previous companies into this brand new role? If you are going for a job that you really really like, I would recommend you to gather a lot of deeper information and create a 30, 60, 90-day plan during an in-person interview. Do some whiteboarding session with the hiring managers. Have some super deep meaningful conversations with them, and of course you have to steer the ship whichever direction it is blowing, right? um, if you feel like the direction is not going well, just keep asking those deep, insightful questions may not necessarily help, but you have to go in. You do have to do some deep homework. You have to walk in with enough research and with a level of seriousness about the opportunity in order for you to be competitive. So this is the end of the webinar. Do you have any questions for me? Feel free to type it up. Nope. That's good. So just to let you know, I do have a podcast called Smart Career Planning. If you have any questions about my services, about what I do, feel free to check it out. You can also visit my website at interviewrightconsulting.com. And always, you can follow me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. I'll be sending out a survey at the end in about 30 minutes. Um, Please to complete it. It matters to me. I would love to hear from you the quality of the audio as well as the content, what other questions you or topics you're interested in when it comes to job interviews and career planning. Um, Thank you so much for your time, and I'm gonna wrap this up here. Talk to you soon.